Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, commissioners, staff. Great to see everyone. We are gathered here today, Monday, August 17th, 6:02 p.m. I will call this public hearing into session. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, we have one item on our agenda today. That's the scheduled public hearing. And so every speaker will have a few minutes to speak on behalf of this public hearing. But before we get started, we're going to start with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Commissioner Cummings, you are recognized.
Mr. Chair, may I introduce?
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. We're blessed to have Reverend Alfred Williams, who is the Deputy Director of One Church, One Child, and he's been working with them for over 20 years, and he also serves as an Associate Pastor of the Bible-based church here in Tallahassee. So, Reverend Williams, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let us pray. Father God, we want to thank you for this opportunity that we're here today, God, that you have your servant leaders here, God, to bring about issues and concerns for the people here in Leon County, that you will anoint their minds and hearts to do those things which is pleasing and, more importantly, to serve your people. We thank you for your many blessings that you bestowed upon us. Bless the families of our commissioners and all those who are under the sound of my voice. We thank you for all things. In that son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. County Administrator, we are on the scheduled public hearing. Will you introduce the item and let us know how many public speakers we have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is your first and only public hearing to consider an ordinance to place a proposed historic harm charter amendment on the November 3rd, 2026 general election ballot to establish a community impact assessment process as recommended by the Leon County Citizen Charter Committee. The item requests the board to conduct the first and only public hearing to consider an ordinance for placement of the proposed amendment on the Leon County Charter addressing historic harm, again on the November 3rd, 2026 general election ballot. As recommended by the Citizen Charter Committee, the proposed historic harm charter amendment would require periodic assessments, public reporting, and the board's review of adverse community conditions in historically underserved areas resulting from historic county laws, policies, and practices. As you will recall, commissioners, the board reconvened the CCRC to consider advancing a revised historic harm charter amendment to address historic harmful public policy decisions in a way that is based on geographical areas in the community rather than race, ethnicity, or any other protected class to ensure compliance with federal and state laws. With that direction, the CCRC advanced the proposed historic harm amendment presented today for your consideration. As a reminder, a simple majority of the board can accept or reject the committee's proposed charter amendment, but no modifications can be made to the proposed amendment at this time. Approval of the proposed amendment would be subject to voter approval on the general election ballot. Finally, as detailed in your materials, commissioners, upon voter approval of the amendment, an ordinance would be brought back to the board by April of next year, setting forth the specific operational details necessary for the implementation of the periodic community assessments. This item has no fiscal impact to the county. If approved by the voters, the implementation of the proposed charter amendment may have a future fiscal impact based on the frequency and the scale of the periodic assessments, as well as any other remedial actions directed by the board. It's important to remind commissioners that the board has the authority to conduct these assessments without amending the Leon County Charter. However, the analysis before you provides the ability to provide the direction to staff that you might find most appropriate. Options 1, 2, 3, and 4 board direction are presented before you. Commissioners, that is my overview of the item, and we have 4 speaker cards, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Timekeeper, please set a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker for this item, which is pretty traditional. First speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should have noted the chairman and former Commissioner Marianne Lindley is here. She's our first speaker, and I'm sure she'll be back in September when we bring you your final report and to also receive, as directed by the board, the proclamation to the CCRC. But with that, Commissioner Marianne Lindley.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner, great to see you. You have the floor.
Thanks so much. Pleasure to be here. I wanted to thank Commissioner Welch for appointing me to the duty and responsibility of being on this committee, and also to thank the staff. The county staff is really tremendous and showed up all the time with every guns blazing, so thanks so much for that. I'm here, even though the amendment is about historic harm, I see it really as a rather dystopian piece of legislation regarding the future. A lot of what we discussed, and we had some really thoughtful discussions on these topics throughout, very civilized, very thoughtful. There was a lot of concern about what world we're living in now. But I think all of you, whether or not you're on the board going forward, there will be future boards who will face issues that I believe this kind of guidance will tell you about the values and the thoughts and the interests of this community over the years, looking back on what we've done and what we need to do in the future. So to me, without getting too dystopian, I think this is an amendment about the future, and it will be something that other boards, future boards, can look to understand the respect that we feel, the values we have, and possibly just to understand the law of unintended consequences plays out in ways we can never imagine, and that this might be give some strength and fortification for changes on down the road. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Miriam Teachea.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm here to speak on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee as their co-president. While we are not taking a position on the historic harms measure at this time, we fully support the placement of this amendment on the November ballot. The League of Women Voters of Tallahassee has a long-standing position in support of home rule, charter governments, and the Charter Review Committee's ability to propose amendments to the charter for direct placement on the ballot at the next general election. I appreciate this body's willingness to let the Charter Review Committee continue their work by sending this proposal back for reconsideration. Since then, the Charter Review Committee has worked diligently to produce an amendment proposal that is in compliance with state and federal law, as well as being written in a way that is not overly prescriptive. Therefore, its fate should be in the hands of voters in November. You can find more information on all of our local league positions on our website, lwvtallahassee.org. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker, Delilah Pierre, to be followed by Zula Oliveira.
Hi, my name's Delilah. I am a member of the Tallahassee Alliance Against Race and Political Repression, and I want to say that I 100% stand for the Historic Harms Amendment. There have been, in governance, whether governance is good or governance is bad, harm happens. Even with the best intentions and the best laid plans, communities are negatively and massively affected by the government programs, city and state programs that happen. And that's why I support the Historic Harms Amendment, because I believe that there are many communities in Tallahassee that have been left behind, that are not given the same resources, that are not given the same chances, opportunities, and advantages. And this is the first step to us really looking at the problems of the city and attempting to rectify them. One thing I want to congratulate the Leon County Commission about is I think that you are far more responsive as a board than the Tallahassee City Commission. And not to insult the Tallahassee City Commission or take out any of my feelings at them, but just to say that when we govern, when people govern, when people have power over other people in our community, they need to be listening to other people in our community. They need to be transparent. They need to be willing to look at the problems of the past and try to seriously rectify them. Whether that's the community that was kicked out of Smoky Hollow due to a state policy that bisected their neighborhood, the Bond community dealing with floods in the city of Tallahassee, rural communities that weren't given the same opportunities during hurricanes, or other actions that weren't given the same protection or safety. All of these communities deserve for their issues to be really seen, not to be forgotten or ignored, because whether or not we forget or ignore them, the impact of what's been done to those communities stays not only with those residents, but with Tallahassee as a whole. If we're truly looking within the interests of the people of Tallahassee, if we're truly looking to better the lives of all people in Tallahassee, we should seriously consider this historic harms amendment that fits within state law, and also, for most importantly, allow the people of Tallahassee to take a vote on it, allow the people of Tallahassee to have power in enforcing it, because it is of my opinion that no state politician or city politician should have control over the city, should be the ones to dictate what happens in the city without having the governance and consent of the people of Tallahassee. They're right, and I think that this amendment is another step forward in giving political power back to the people of Tallahassee, to all communities, whether black, brown, white, immigrant, or something else. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Zula Oliveira, to be followed by Bruce Strobel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to speak tonight. My name is Zula Oliveira, and I have the honor and pleasure of serving as Miss Black Florida, USA. But more pertinent to tonight's purpose and concerns, I am a resident of Leon County, District 1, proud to represent the South Side of Tallahassee. I'm also a rising senior majoring in political science at Florida A&M University here in our capital city. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a FAMU student and a young person studying political systems, I believe the government must remain accountable to the people it serves. Here in Leon County, we residents have seen how major public decisions can shape neighborhoods for generations. Regular assessment of public decisions helps future leaders understand those long-term impacts. As a resident of the South Monroe area of the South Side of Tallahassee, I have seen personally how my neighborhood has changed. That is why I encourage you all to place this proposed charter amendment on the November ballot. The Citizens Charter Review Committee spent months researching, listening to residents, holding public hearings, and refining this proposal. Tonight, you're not being asked to implement a new program or approve new spending. You are simply being asked to give the people of Leon County the opportunity and the power to decide for themselves. I believe our community deserves the opportunity to be empowered. So I respectfully ask you to honor the work of the Charter Review Committee and let the voters of Leon County have their say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Bruce Strobel, to be followed by Oliver Cheese.
All right. Good evening, Chairman Caban. Good evening, commissioners. I want to begin by thanking each of you for your courage and your patience and your commitment to the democratic process. I also want to thank you for being champions of home rule and local democracy. So, as you all are aware, we began this charter review process under a cloud of uncertainty. There were new laws coming, new federal directives, legitimate legal questions, and throughout the process, county staff provided guidance, but our chair, Mary Ann Lindley, allowed the citizens appointed to that committee to chart our own course. We considered a multitude of proposals, some good ideas, some addressed real problems, and many times we concluded ourselves that although an idea had merit, the charter simply was not the appropriate place for it. But with the question of government accountability and long-term effects of historic public policy, it took on a different character. We believed as a committee that there was something structurally important here worth preserving. So we did what democracy requires. We couldn't always agree on what it would look like. So we had to figure out how would we move forward. We deliberated, we challenged one another, we listened to the public, and ultimately we kind of had that important back and forth that makes it so that when people are challenged, that they have the chance to respond, defend their positions, listen to legal concerns, and that led us to revising the language. We removed provisions that created any unnecessary legal uncertainty, and we narrowed the framework significantly. And ultimately, we developed a geographically based, legally compliant process centered on something very simple: assessment, public reporting, and government accountability. And commissioners, I think the journey of this amendment is almost as important as the amendment itself. Think about what happened here. Ordinary citizens who were you all appointed came together and reached an agreement 14-3 that this amendment should move forward. People brought us ideas and we listened to those ideas in the public. We disagreed in the public. We changed our minds in the public, and then we sent our recommendations back to this body. So this is what home rule actually looks like. This is local democracy. And at a moment when communities across Florida are watching more decisions be pulled away from local governments, I believe one of the strongest statements Leon County can make is that we still trust the people. So I think it's very important, not just for the amendment itself, but for the purpose of local democracy, protecting home rule, that we send this to the voters and let them make the final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Strobel. Next speaker.
Oliver Cheese, be followed by Thomas Spears.
Thank you, Commissioners. Discussing the Historic Harms Amendment is more than a process of discussing the history of Tallahassee and the communities which have been left behind in the process of the growth and development of Leon County, our state and our country. It's also about choosing what kind of future we want these communities to be able to experience and what kind of city we want to build for ourselves. Whether we want Leon County to be a place in which all communities are able to count on their shared governance structures, on the process of local democracy, and on their elected representatives to exercise their powers in a way which is actually genuinely reflecting the will of the people, and which is reflecting the will of these communities who have historically been underserved and who have undergone a process of continued neglect. It's also a part of evaluating where power genuinely rests in Leon County, whether the voters themselves, the people with whom power ultimately rests in a structure of popular sovereignty, will have the ability to decide whether or not this amendment passes. Right? I think this is an issue which is too vital to the futures and to the leadership potential of our various communities in Tallahassee to leave it up to any individual politicians. I think fundamentally this is something which has to rest with the people themselves, that there are conversations around this amendment which have to be had in the public sphere, that the people of Tallahassee need not only to recognize the benefits and the possible costs of this amendment, but also to recognize that the decision as to whether to approve or reject it ultimately lies with them, to be able to responsibly assume the power which is vested in them under a democratic system. I think the members of this committee ought to respect the lengthy process of compromise, of consolidation, of cooperation, which really makes it the foundation of democracy that the Charter Review Commission has gone through. Ought to respect the ability of the people of Tallahassee to make a responsible, informed decision as to the outcome of this amendment and to the future of their own communities. I think this commission ought to enable the ordinary voters in Tallahassee, who've placed you into your seats and who have trusted you, to represent their interests properly, to allow those ordinary voters to realize the genuine potential that they hold for reshaping the face of their own city, the destiny of their own neighborhoods, and their own ability not only to recover from historic harm, but also to advance into the future that they desire and the future that they deserve. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next speaker.
Thomas Spears, to be followed by Brandon Beckett.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm just here to stand in support of the Historic Harms Amendment. To me, this seems like a slam dunk, a very obvious thing. A lot of the points that have been made so far are pretty well understood. This amendment, as it's written, does not make any sort of funding mandates. It does not target any particular groups of people. It targets communities that may have been historically harmed, regardless of who may have been in that community. I think what needs to also be kept in mind, particularly for the decision for you all tonight, is that Leon County and this board has an opportunity to lead, particularly in this state, in a way that's kind of almost unprecedented. This is a way to rectify things in communities that need to be fixed. And when it comes to making a county that is for all the people in it, it's a matter of trying to figure out who is left behind and for what reasons, and where the county is culpable for those things. Without this sort of framework of this amendment, it's kind of up in the air, and it's a matter of what can come from it, what can come from maybe the people that are on the board in the future, whether that's y'all or whether it's other people in, well, certainly in like 10 years or so, or further. Instead, this would make it that it has to happen. And given that it hasn't happened so far, it's not to denigrate anyone currently or in the past, kind of indicates exactly why this amendment is needed so much. So I hope you'll take this opportunity to pass it tonight. And also, of course, other key thing, this is not the final decision. This is just to give it to the voters for them to decide. I fully agree with the previous comments. This has been a really great democratic process. And we could take it to the final step that would make it truly democratic for all the people of Leon County to truly decide. I think this is a easy win for the board, and I hope you'll vote yes tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Brandon Beckett to be followed by Alonzo Garrett.
Hi, thank you for hearing us tonight. I just want to say I really respect the amount of how deep this democratic process has been from the start up until now, and I think we need to put this amendment on the ballot in November to finish this democratic process to its completion. And this amendment, it doesn't have any financial mandate. And I think we need to leave it in the people's hands to be able to, decide their futures, because, this amendment is addressing community members that have been left behind due to the development of Tallahassee. And, it's their community as well. We need to make sure, like, every member of this community feels respect and feels like they are a part of this community, and they don't feel as if they're left behind. And this amendment really sets the framework for that future growth and the future growth of the city and all the people in the city. And I think it's really important that we just give the community members the opportunity to get the democratic political power back, and through this amendment and beyond this amendment as this amendment evolves. Thank you.
Alonzo Garrett to be followed by Sadie Carlson.
How you doing? By the way, I think last name part probably got a little mixed up, but no worries. So I'm here to speak in favor of the Historic Harms Amendment, and I think that not only does it remedy...
Name and address for the record. Make sure you say your name.
Oh, last name Garcia, for the record.
Address?
Sorry?
Address?
2437. So an Historic Harms Amendment, I think, will help remedy unequal outcomes that come before county government in the future, and I think would also, again, help in remedying the unequal access that certain communities will face, not only now, but in the future. I think when it comes to something like this, it certainly doesn't give any undue favor to any community that, again, is going to have an unfair advantage. But again, it's one of those things where it allows local government to finally put a measure on something that can then be improved. If we're not measuring something, it doesn't improve. If I don't check my bank balance, I can't tell how I'm going to become a better saver. So I think something like this, when you track something, when you measure it, when you quantify it, it allows for improvements, whereas right now, those measurements might not be unified. And again, this framework, better minds have looked at this, and it have come to the conclusion that this fits well within state law. It doesn't create new spending obligations, so I think that's definitely a plus, and people should have the option to decide. I think, like previous speakers have said, this process has started with people. It has gone through many rounds of consultation, and I think, the merit of the idea at the end of the day should be in the hands of the people. I see no reason why, we should, foreclose on this opportunity to allow people to have this discussion to improve how people want to see the city governed. I think these communities definitely do have, will likely have very strong opinions. And at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a big boost, I think, for people not only who live in the heart of the city, but also at the outskirts, because I think everyone should feel involved in kind of the future of this county, of this city, which, again, it's not just all Tallahassee, but it really does matter. So, thank you.
Thanks so much. Next speaker.
Sadie Carlson, to be followed by Jade Slaughter.
All right. Hello, I'm Sadie Carlson. I live in 32303. So I wanted to speak in favor of the Historic Harms Amendment. What I really like about this is it provides the county with an objective way of viewing different harms that have happened throughout this county and throughout its history, without any prior assumptions of who those people might be. I'm sure many of us in this room have stories or know people that have been in communities that have been harmed by certain policies, whether good intentioned or not. And I think this gives us an objective way to analyze and find what those impacts were. And while not yet acting on it, it gives us the opportunity to do that. Whether it's the county that does it, whether it's the broader community that does it, it brings great awareness to the issues and that are facing this county. And so I think also bringing it to the November ballot is especially important. That really puts the power in the hands of the people of this county and allows us to take the initiative to understand what has happened here. So I do hope you all support the amendment today. So, thank you.
Jade Slaughter, to be followed by Melody Andrade. Jade Slaughter.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, hello, my name is Jade Slaughter. My address is 1316 Jackson Street, Tallahassee. I'm here to voice my support for the Historic Harms Amendment to be placed on the ballot. I think, it is giving people the choice is always a good thing. People will make the decision that's best for them, and democracy is good. Also, I think the purpose of this is something very good. For us to make decisions best for our communities, having information is the first step, and so this is a way to do that, so we know where to best put our resources, and just kind of having all that information available. So I voice my support. Thank you.
Melody Andrade, to be followed by Serenity Williams.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you. My name is Melanie Andrade. I live in District 3 at 3349 Argonaut Drive. First, I want to thank you for being here and for the opportunity to speak. And I also would like to thank you for reconvening the CCRC to actually consider this piece of policy before you. I think I can speak for the whole team at Tallahassee Alert when I say that we are so excited to have this piece of policy before you today for your consideration. It's been a long time coming, but we enjoy the democratic process, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on issues such as these. Leon County's charter exists because we believe local decisions should be made locally. Allowing voters to consider this amendment honors that principle. Our community has seen how major public decisions can shape neighborhoods for generations. Regular assessment helps future leaders understand those long-term impacts. This amendment is as much about future decision-making as it is about understanding the past. Also, the Commission retains legislative direction over future implementation. This proposal simply establishes a governance framework. It does not require any specific programs. It's been carefully refined through months of public participation again, and I just encourage you all to vote today to trust this process and let the voters decide in November. Thank you.
Serenity Williams, to be followed by our final speaker on this item, Marcus Sims.
Name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Serenity Williams. I live at 4011 Elder Lane in District 3. Good evening, everyone, Chair and Commissioners. Yeah, my name is Serenity Williams, and I live in District 3 in Leon County, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak on this item. We really have an opportunity to do something amazing here today. It's not very often that we even sit a charter review committee, and you all appointed people of the community to represent the broader community on this commission. And together, all of them, including a supermajority of them, worked through, wrote, discussed, and then passed to send here to continue the process of going to the members of the community to vote on in November. And that is really a beautiful display of democracy. Our community has seen how major public decisions can shape neighborhoods for generations, and doing regular assessments help future leaders understand those long-term impacts. The public should have the right to decide if we hold these regular assessments. In this final meeting, I want to leave you with, again, very important facts that many people have said already. But again, the proposal was substantially revised to address legal and structural concerns during the Charter Review Committee. Future implementation must comply with all applicable state and federal laws. The Commission retains legislative discretion over future implementation. And again, this bill does not, or this amendment does not give any preferential treatment. It is focused on geography. So again, I respectfully ask you all to continue the democratic process, allow the people to vote and choose how they want their community to be run. Thank you.
Final speaker, Marcus Sims.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcus Sims, and I am a member of the Leon County. I have something written that I wanted to speak with you guys about. It's not about the agenda at all. So this says President Donald John Trump has been helping destroy my mental sanity for at least 10 years. From age 28 to 38, I have dealt with him in his high-ranking associations with the Governor's Club in Tallahassee, Florida. They have destroyed my ways of having gainful employment with the use of pay-for-play tactics. During this time, as my brother Ernie told me, I have had to keep my eyes on God. The issues I have had with my heart are that of the Governor's Club. This is an elite club in Tallahassee. Donald and his associates used their power not just to stop me from this employment, but people stole my work using the dark web, Yahoo Mail, and my Florida State University email. Theft of work is illegal. Pay for play is also illegal. I call it theft of intellectual property. I call it the theft of name, image, and not likeness. There are also people who partook in the big, beautiful bill who wanted me to fail in my life because they had crafted and paid for a story of my life going all the way back to high school. Donald did not want me to become a Border Patrol officer. I would have been able to investigate the things that were happening in the state by those who paid to see me fail in life. For 10 years, they made these payments. I am mentally sick in a Tallahassee world that hates me. They hate me. Ultimately, they hate themselves. Mostly, they hate that it is time for Marcus Sims to rise out of the gutters of deception and pain. It is my time to really fight for the little people, because I know exactly what it is to be at the bottom of life and have the system put its boot on my neck. I know what it means to work so hard for my dreams that I no longer can shamefully control my emotions. I know that it is like to be so sick that psychosis takes a hold of my life. I am now disabled. My mental illness cannot be fixed. Regular, everyday people can relate to my understanding story. I humbly ask that you come to action in defense of my rights. That every race, creed, color, direction, or complexion are given by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We should come together hand in hand and stand as a solidified front against the corruption that has turned our beautiful city into a cesspool of crime and deceit, all to protect things that are not utilitarian or for the best good of most people in the city and state. Let's fight together to destroy the evils that harm the principles that make this country so great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that concludes your speakers.
Okay, great. Commissioners, looking for a motion. Microphone.
I'll make a motion to advance this initiative to the general ballot on November 3rd, 2026.
Exception one.
A motion to place these, the issue at hand on the general election ballot. So moved by Commissioner Maddox, second by Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Maddox, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank the speakers who came out tonight for your words. I do think this was the idea of what the political process should look like. And I want to thank those who participated in it. I want to take this a moment also to recognize the chair, the CRC, Commissioner Honorable Marianne Lindley, as well as the vice chair of the CRC, Chauncey Haynes, and other members that are in the audience of the CRC. Would you please stand? These folks worked overtime and plus some to put things on our ballot that our community could vote on and feel comfortable that it was vetted and talked about through a committee of citizens that represent a cross-section of our community. Mr. Chair, I don't know if we've already done it, but at some point I would like to ask for a proclamation. Very good, glad we already did that. All right, so now to the issue at hand. I believe, as many have said today, that whether you agree with it or not, voters should decide how this goes. It should not be a decision that's made on the dais today. I want our commissioners up here to know that a vote in favor does not indicate how you might support it in the ballot box. That is your own private business and how you choose to feel about this. But what it does imply is that we have confidence in the political process, that we believe that our community should decide such an important issue. And so as we talk about it today, as we have conversation about it today, I don't want it to be implied that a vote here today solidifies the fact that this is something that will be a part of the Leon County Charter, because that's not what we're doing today. What we're voting on today is to give our community an opportunity to go to the ballot box and decide for themselves whether they want this to be a part of our charter. And that's exactly how something as important as this initiative should play out. There's no fiscal priority, there's no fiscal obligation to this. This is simply for us to see how our community feels about this one initiative and if it should be a part of our charter. And so I want to thank, again, the League of Women Voters, KJM, Bruce Strobel, Alert. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. And last but not least, I want to make this real clear. This didn't start off how it ended. The initiative itself did not start out how it ended. It started as something that we probably couldn't do by virtue of what the legislature has put on us and the handcuffs they put on some of the things that we can consider. But what it has transformed into by virtue of this board setting some parameters, sending it back, and having the committee chew on it is something that I think focuses not on race, gender, or equity. It focuses on demographics. It focuses on geographics, not demographics. And that's exactly what we're looking for here. Well, how do we really start to help those communities within our community that may have been affected by the unintended consequences of policy? You know, as a policy student myself, as I like to think of, there's a lot of things that as I began to really understand how politics work that I can look at right now and say back when these things were passed nationally, locally, and statewide, they had one intent. But as years and years go by and as policy begins to become implemented, what we found out is that the unintended consequences of what may have been a good idea changed lives. It slowed down progress. It took things from people that people didn't expect to be taken from them. And I don't think the pure side of me would like to think that those things weren't done intentionally in malice. And if they weren't, this charter amendment gives us the opportunity to correct those things that we didn't mean to do. But if they were, it gives us who sit on this board in this community the opportunity to change and to make right what it was intentionally done to areas of town or to people in town that did not have the wherewithal or did not have the ability to fight for themselves. And so, again, I want to be very clear here that this is not consent. This is not us putting it in our Constitution or in our charter. This is simply us advancing it again to our voters to see how our voters feel about it and to see what the character will be of our community once we come out of it. So with that, I hope that I can get the support of other commissioners on this important charter amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Commissioners, I see pretty much everyone in the queue here, so just be patient with me as we go down it. I'm going to go to Commissioner Cummings and Commissioner Minor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Lindley and the members of the Charter Review Committee. Some of them are here that stood. I mean, they did an incredible amount of work. They were diligent. I also want to just recognize all the speakers that came today and spoke favorably about this particular charter review amendment. I also want to thank the county administrator and county staff because they really did a yeoman's job to bring to us what we have before us today. Now, earlier this year when the Charter Review Committee met and this issue was raised, I think we all are aware of the initial language that was presented for us to study. And I think the target in the initial language was to get historical data on racial discrimination and on policy decisions specifically and adverse effects with slavery and segregation in Leon County. It was great at the time. We had clear direction on what we wanted to embrace and look at. But in the process, we all know Senate Bill 1134 was passed, as well as executive orders were issued by our President Trump, that basically addressed any entity, state, county, local government receiving federal funds would have to do so colorblindly as it relates to DEI. And so after that March bill was passed, 1134, the Charter Review Committee did the right thing. They abandoned that particular initiative because it was specifically looking at past injuries from slavery and segregation and discrimination. However, I think this body asked them to go back and look at it again and see if some language could be drafted and adopted that was in fact colorblind. And they did that with the assistance of staff and county administrator. And so we have a redraft that was clearly race neutral and ethnic neutral as well. And that's the document that the Charter Review Committee looked at, scrutinized, and voted overwhelmingly to move forward with that document. Now, I fully believe in the ongoing need of our community, and I believe in the vulnerability of some segments of our community where we do need to have ongoing documentation and ongoing efforts to address some disparities in the community. Economic disparities, unemployment, all of those I believe are high priorities. But I also believe that the county is addressing those areas. The county, we have information to show that millions of dollars have been gone into various communities to address and rectify some of those historic issues, some of those historic ills. But I also believe that it's good to have a mandate to check the progress of what Leon County is clearly doing. Leon County is clearly addressing those problems. But if we have a mandate to check and measure the progress and the impact of all of the county efforts and publicize it so that all members of the community are aware of the efforts being taken by the county. Now, commissioners, I think you all know my position as this initiative being part of our Constitution. I believe it's policy. I really firmly believe that it should not be part of our Constitution. However, I also believe in the democratic process. And I believe at this point, it's not wrong to allow the citizens to have a say. Against my strong belief that from a policy standpoint, I think we as a board, we as the county, can adopt policy, strong policy, about addressing community disparities and community adverse impacts from historical laws and policies and ordinances. But I believe, my belief in the citizens being involved in the democratic process and my belief in local control has sort of overrode my position that this really should be a policy and not part of the Constitution. So, Mr. Chair, I'll support the motion on the floor to adopt option 1 and move forward with this particular item being placed on the ballot for the fall.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first, again, let me start by thanking Madam Chair Lindley, Vice Chair Haynes, and all the members of the CCRC for a lot of great work, a lot of hours spent on this issue as well as many others. This is how democracy is supposed to work. And I want to thank every single one of you for agreeing to serve when you were asked and then doubling down and doing just that. So thanks to each of you. You know, before I became a county commissioner, I served as the CEO of Second Harvest the Big Bend. And I was particularly proud when, shortly after I became a county commissioner, this board made a motion, I think it was unanimous, to direct our staff to identify the 10 most food insecure areas of this county. And working with Feeding America, working with Feeding Florida, and Second Harvest of Big Bend, Leon County staff, using data, used that data to identify the 10 most food insecure areas, the hungriest parts of this county, the areas that had the most trouble having access to healthy food. And once we identified those 10 areas, Shington Lammy and his team, they had neighborhood gatherings, neighborhood meetings in each one of those neighborhoods. I went to many of those, almost all of them, and had dialogue with those neighborhoods on what the barriers were. And then next, our Leon County staff worked to address those barriers. And so when I think about this charter amendment, I think of this, if it does pass in November, I think that what happened with our food insecurity initiative would mirror in some ways what would happen with this. Irrespective of race, ethnicity, creed, we're looking at the data to identify the geographical areas where historically there have been underserved citizens. And so the success we had with the food insecurity initiative, I think would be replicated in a different way, of course, but that type of initiative, I think, was what we would end up seeing. What we're doing here tonight is voting on whether or not that appears on the ballot. We had citizens gather in a CCRC session, many sessions, talking this through. They were talking with citizens. Together, they came up with this proposal. Our county administrator and his team, our county attorney and her office worked very carefully with this group of citizens to put together something that passes muster, is compliant with Florida law, and also still represents the will of the people as defined by the Citizens Charter Review Committee and the people with whom they've spoken. I think the voters of Leon County should have the opportunity to decide whether they want an initiative like this to appear in our charter. Is it similar to the rest of the charter? Not really, and the charter is mainly comprised of government structure and how the local government is compiled. But because of the will of the people here has spoken so strongly, and because of the times that we're living in, I think the right choice for us is to put this on the ballot and let the people decide if they want this to move forward. So I support the motion on the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Proctor, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. No doubt, we've heard all the right comments that have been made. I want to ask, and I ditto all of those right comments. Madam Attorney, what is the number of words that we're permitted to place on the ballot?
The title is allowed to have 15, and then the actual language, I think it's 75.
I've got 43 words on the question, and 15. We're well under what's required for the number of words that we can present. No doubt there will be several measures before voters, both on the statewide balloting and referendum items that we would be presenting from a local perspective. I'm satisfied that technically we meet the word count. Secondly, I'm satisfied that throughout the meeting processes chaired by Commissioner Lindley, that our county attorney, her staff, our county administrator, his staff, were present and were guiding, offered parameters for the acceptability of what potentially could pass muster or what met the mission objective of charter review. And I appreciate the guidance of our staff being there. And it's because that they were there every step of the way to make sure that all the technical Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, that I'm comfortable that the language that we've been presented by the wonderful body of citizens, 21 members, I believe, I'm well satisfied that their deliberations, 21 sterling citizens of our community, have spoken. 14-3 vote is significant. Tonight, I've counted at least 14 members from the public, a couple members from the committee who have addressed, and there's not been one voice of opposition. And if there's ever a venue in Leon County that people will gather to oppose something, it's this room right here. I don't know where opposition is, but this room has been known to draw opposition, Commissioner Lindley. But tonight, that has not occurred. So I'm further feeling a sense of confidence that this is the right thing to do to allow citizens to. And with respect to the redo or this board having empathy to know that the language offered by Commissioner Cummings, given the historical dynamics and challenges of words, but Dr. Strobel's empathy and leadership on this issue was so dynamic, and this board felt that if we sent it back again, that just possibly this committee under Chairwoman Lindley's leadership could possibly get it right. And then there's Dr. Temple Robinson down there who, you know, she writes on a sheet of paper and nobody know what those big words mean. And you get a sheet of paper and you go to the drugstore and you don't know what you're about to do to yourself, but that language is sitting there. We had lawyers that write in that kind of stuff like you write, Commissioner Cummings, and they talk a certain language. There's Dr. Strobel who, real fancy with words and all. It's just so many different, 21 folk trying to arrive. And that you went back, but I want you to be comforted because Amendment 3 was ordered back for redo. So we ain't the only people in the state of Florida went back to get the words right. Judge Frank sent that back for clarification, making sure it was consistent. So we're in good company with regard to the redoing this. But what I'm most pleased about, and I think that the spirit that Ms. Delilah Pierre brought up, and the contrast that Delilah said that Board of County Commission has, over the years, has been a better people's commission. I guard that with sacred care. And I appreciate that perspective. And the contrast was to another local government whereby in this community people wanted to have something to say about a hospital in this community. The transfer of dead slaves in the grave and people, the community, democratic process not allowed as to whether to sell slaves in their graves, and that went by. So the care with which we guard the democratic processes and access of people is very important and sacred, I think, obligation that we have. And because of that, I am going to continue to distinguish this body on this end of the street from any other body that legislates, regulates, or passes public policy. I think that we set a very high bar. And then might I also conclude in stating that there will be continuing, use the word, the effort for parity. And if there's one thing that I hope history would be honest about, and that is to say that for the years that I have sat on this dais, that the struggle, the continuing advocacy for parity that is geographic. What you've captured here, as Commissioner Lindley said, that the future, that we're putting some place markers, we're putting some white lines in the middle of the road for the future. And there is no doubt that the district's specific geographic, that me and Chairman Caban's district, our district's a little different, a little lesser. We ain't as tight and right in many regards, or secure. And that's just been a continuing message that I've attempted to amplify over the years. So when I'm off this dais, perhaps the future commission will have guidance, the echo of my very heart beating, continuing to say parity. And so I'm pleased with this, and it is the very essence of what my tenure has been over the years, and that is one for parity of our respective districts throughout and across this county. So I'm encouraging, and I'm not sure, are we limited, county attorney, from forming a pact to push us over the top? Are we muzzles upon our mouths? What, if this passes tonight, what are the limits or restrictions that an individual county commissioner can or cannot do to help my legacy and interest in parity continue?
The same limitations that have been discussed with the board in the past about the use of county funds and other activities related to anything that makes it on the ballot would apply to this proposal as well. So if you have individual questions about what you can and can't do, please give me a call. We can talk about it. But the state law very much limits what the commission can do to advocate for or against anything that's going to be on the ballot.
If I might ask one more question. How does that compare to the state's own right to advocate for or against Amendment 3? Is the state prohibited from engaging in that battle?
The statute that restricts what this board can do does not address what the state can do. The state is not subject to the statute that limits what the county can do.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Michelle.
Commissioner Welch and the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, I want to thank my appointees to the, what was that? Charter Review. Madam Chair, if she's still here, Liz Ellis and William Smith, thank you, and thank you to all the members of the CRC. Appreciate your work. I am going to reiterate my concern with this item and stay consistent with my previous votes. I cannot support this item. I think that we are bending ourselves over backwards here to like not say what this is about, even though we've acknowledged, you know, the initial language that this item came forward with dealt with reparations. I think that the intentions of the people who are pushing this item are good. I think that, you know, we all want social justice. We all want to right the wrongs of the past. And I think that we have massaged and tweaked and twisted this language to avoid calling this what it is and what the intention is, which I think is unpalatable to many of our voters. I think it is intellectually dishonest to act like this is not about reparations. I think we have intentionally taken 3 steps backwards from this initial language so that we can avoid the pitfalls associated with the path we were on. So now we've laid out some breadcrumbs in reverse so that we can find our way back to the same issue, the same goal. This is just a back road to the same destination. I think it will almost certainly offend some of our citizens, many of our citizens. I think that the ultimate goal is to use tax dollars to compensate people that they never harmed. I think that it is clear in our staff analysis that that is quite likely in the future. If approved by voters, the implementation of the proposed historic harm charter may have a future fiscal impact based on the frequency and scale of the periodic assessments, as well as any potential remedial actions directed by the board. I think that this does not build community, it breaks it down. It does not create unity, it creates disunity. I definitely agree with Commissioner Cummings. This does not belong in our county charter. We decide policy all the time up here that addresses historic harms, to your point, Commissioner Minor, about food insecurity. We already do everything that this language is asking us to do. We know the geographic areas where there have been disinvestment. Dr. Robinson, my dear friend, is sitting in the audience who literally runs a federal community health center in a neighborhood disinvested of healthcare, for which we contribute, the federal government contributes, the state contributes. And I think that labeling this as a historic harms amendment is going to threaten our very ability to continue doing what we already do. And that's my biggest concern. We can all agree that the South Side is historically underserved. Yet we affectionately refer to Commissioner Proctor as billion-dollar Bill for the amount of money he has delivered to the South Side fighting for social justice and inequality for 30 years. This item will threaten that future funding by giving the legislature a different reason to come after this commission. I have no doubt that this will get on the ballot. I have no doubt that it will pass. Does it need 50% is all it needs? 50%, it's probably going to pass. The legislature could write a bill tomorrow that says we can't do this. Yet now we have done exactly what I fear we are doing and what our staff fears we are doing. If you look at the third paragraph of the analysis, and I want to read this into the record, as part of the board's consideration, it is important to note that the proposed historic community impact assessment process, public reporting, and the board's review of assessment findings can be successfully implemented under the board's existing authority and without the need for an amendment to the county charter. There are no county charters in the state of Florida that include language regarding the provision of historic community impact assessments, as county charters generally address large organizational issues focused on the authority, structure, and powers of county government. Furthermore, the county's ongoing comprehensive efforts to address the needs of historically underserved areas and vulnerable populations are currently and more appropriately implemented through the board's strategic planning process, budgetary priorities, and policy-making authority. Similarly, the proposed historic community impact assessment process could be implemented at any time at the board's discretion without the creation of policy and programmatic mandates in the charter. Accordingly, this item provides an option for the board to direct staff to bring back an ordinance for implementation of historic community impact assessment process under the existing authority. Again, I say we are threatening our effort to do what we are already doing. This is a feel-good effort that is essentially going to hurt the cause it claims to serve. And we owe it to the community to at least be honest about the motivations here. At some point in time, we are going to identify a historic harm that we think meets the need for being rectified. Well, how are we going to rectify that? We hear speakers talking about, people. We know this is about people. It's not about places. People are places. People are in places. So, in closing, I can't in good conscience support an item that jeopardizes the policies and programs that we already do as a good government while simultaneously laying the groundwork for allocating money to repair historic wrongdoings at the expense of today's homeowners and business owners who had absolutely nothing to do with harming anyone. And the moment that this board or any future board contemplates doing that, the legislature in its current form and in its likely future forms is going to come after this board hard. And then they're going to say, well, why are you sending money here or sending money there? What are the real reasons that you're investing in Second Harvest or Bond? We have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on the South Side. FAMU Way, Capitol Circle. Hundreds of millions of dollars we direct to disinvested communities every year on this dais because we know where they are. We don't need to have a historic assessment to figure out where our disinvested communities are. We know that the 32304 area code is one of the poorest in the state of Florida. It is a data-driven, objective scenario. So what are we accomplishing is my question. I don't think we're accomplishing anything. I think we're putting lines on people's resumes at the expense of actually being able to do the policy work that we are already doing. And you're creating division within the community that is unnecessary. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My colleagues, I have profound respect for all of you. I hate that I will probably be the only no vote on this, but I hope you can understand my analysis on this and my take on it. I will be consistent with that and stay a no if it comes back as an implementing ordinance.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Immediate Past Chairman. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question. Is there any law or proposed law that we're aware of that this does not comply with?
The proposed charter amendment itself, no.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I will be supporting this to go to the voters. I think this particularly is very important that it go to the voters because this is about our values and what our community wants us to do. If the voters pass this, I know I will feel much more comfortable on this dais carrying this out as we get information and analysis and data that informs our future decisions. And so I'm looking forward to finding out what the voters want to do on this. I also appreciate how this is this is good governance, okay? It was said that this is just a rehash of an original request, and I disagree with that. There was an original request, and it could not go forward for legal reasons, and it didn't, at the important time, have the votes. And we thought, and we said, okay, and there's a new law and a new executive order. Okay, well, part of the reason that was brought up, we think is possibly important, that in some ways, some areas may be historically harmed. Can that be legal? If that can be legal, do our citizens who we appointed want it? And they said yes. And the Citizens Committee said yes. And we have an opportunity to let our voters say yes. The other thing, too, is I am not making any assumptions that I know what geographic areas will show up as underserved or historically harmed by policy. Certainly, we already know some. But to me, part of the benefit, if this is passed and the voters say this is important, is to say, we may find geographic areas, large or small, that we don't usually think of as underserved because we haven't brought in that search out. And to me, that is why this is an excellent values-based directive that then if it passes, it comes back to us to set policy on. Let me be clear. If it passes on the ballot, it comes back next year for us to set the policy on. It does not commit funding to projects in certain areas. It does not commit anything like that. It informs our decisions. And it makes me think of it's responsible, mature decision-making. I make decisions throughout my life, and sometimes, even with the best of intentions, decisions I make harm others. And part of what I do is I try to review, and if I find where I have harmed others, I don't just apologize, I try to address the harm. And I think that is an important, mature, effective way to do this if the voters tell us they want to do this. Because I will tell you that when I read this, one, nowhere does it say to send money out on results that we get. It says get information and guide our future results. And that is why I'm supporting it. I want to know from the voters, and I want to be very, 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 very clear. This proposal is exactly what it says on this page. And what the voters will get is exactly what these letters and words are on this page, and those have been reviewed by legal, and those have been reviewed by our citizens and by us on this board. And that is all voters will get to see on the ballot. And so I look forward to finding out what the voters want, because this is specific to geography, because that's the only place we are allowed in a reasonable way to look at underserved, historically impacted areas, especially when you think about local planning decisions. That makes sense. This doesn't obligate us to make up for federal and state policies, and actually, it doesn't obligate us to make up for our former policies. It makes us report, analyze, and be informed of the impacts of our prior policy as we make future decisions. I think that is responsible government, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the voters say in order to allow us to make good decisions that meet our community's values. And that's why I want it on the ballot, because I want to know if this is our community's values.
All right, Commissioners, I appreciate everyone's feedback. We are going to take this item to a vote. We have a motion on the floor. Was it Commissioner Maddox? Seconded by Commissioner Proctor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Passes 5-2 with myself and the immediate past chairman in dissent. Commissioners, I am going to do, if any commissioners have any business to discuss, I ask them to just keep it very brief, but I will go down to commissioner discussion. It looks like you have some business discussion. Commissioner Minor, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be very quick. Kay Ignacio, from the CEO from 211 Big Band, has requested a proclamation. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, and so I'd like to make a motion for that proclamation to be presented at the September meeting.
Okay, we have a motion requested, proclamation requested by Commissioner Minor, second by Commissioner Maddox. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. That's it. Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Cummings? Commissioner Proctor?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like, if I could request at this meeting for a policy review at our next meeting on the abandoned mobile homes. And what is our policy with regard to abandoned, burnt down, dilapidated mobile homes? Do we have a policy to remove, if someone would like to?
You're looking for a status report? Like a status report on the current policy?
I'd like to know that, and with a review of maybe strengthening our review of mobile homes.
Okay, I'll second that. So we have a status report on, I'll repeat it, what it is, clearly?
Review on mobile home policies, in particular abandoned, dilapidated, that fell down, uninhabitable. What is the policy dealing with those?
Okay, I'll second that. So all those in favor of the motion by Commissioner Proctor, seconded by myself, signify by saying aye. Passes unanimously.
And then finally, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank the ladies and gentlemen coming out, Ms. Black Florida, who's very genuinely an extraordinary, great student, political science major as well. And I just think that, if I might, just for a very brief second, with all due respect, Commissioner Welch, I just don't think that our staff, in particular our county's attorney, would have suffered this committee to bring to us a Trojan horse, stating one thing with the underlying intent to do something deviant, or inconsistent with its words. So just out of respect.
Sir, thank you.
Out of respect for.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Yes, sir. And I just believe that our staff, if no one else, the 14-3 vote, 14-3 or whatever, 14-3, spoke well and loud. And I think also that our staff's allowance of these words to come to us, somehow, I don't think that our staff would be aligned in the manner of disposition such as stated, articulated by Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for wording that respectfully, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank you for leading us through this process. Again, thank the audience for being here and all the kind words that were said. I will attempt to be as quick as I can. There's few things in this world that I really don't like very much. One of those things is for my thoughts and words to be misrepresented or characterized as something that I didn't intend. With all due respect, I think that to characterize what Leon County voters will have a opportunity to vote on as reparations muddies the water of the opportunity that's being given to our voters. And I wish that leaving this meeting, we had an opportunity to simply call it and make it what it is. I think Commissioner O'Keefe asked a question when he asked, does this violate any laws? Our county attorney said this initiative, this amendment does not violate any laws, and as I understand it, reparations is not allowed it's not only not allowed through legislature, but also through the federal government with some of the stuff, DEI and others that have happened. And so I appreciate the perspective of each one of us as commissioners, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think one of the things that makes us great as a board is that we may say things that we don't like, that each other don't like. We may say things that we disagree with, but there's an element of respect for opinion that comes from each one of us to each of us, and so. I believe that restraint is a virtue, and so I battle with whether or not I should say anything, but I couldn't let the moment pass without letting my intentions of what I made the motion to be on the ballot for was not about reparations. It was about historical harms and policies that, quite frankly, can and will assist with helping out with some of the historical harms. Also, I wanted to make it clear that this isn't about putting money in people's pockets. This is about putting infrastructure in places. This is about us doing the things that we've already done, that we're going to continue to do, but also will give credence to the fact that we are addressing those historical harms while we do them. And so this is not a money grab. This is not us trying to put money in the pockets of individuals that look like me, or individuals we seem to think are in poverty, but instead it's an opportunity for us to put infrastructure in places and be justified by the fact that those places may have been forgotten about through policy or harmed through policy or fallen short through policy that may have been unintended or intended consequences of those policies. I appreciate, again, the discussion. I appreciate and respect all of our commissioners' words about and feelings about this initiative that we're putting on the ballot. But I wanted to make clear that my motion wasn't for one of reparations. My motion was one that looked at, analyzed, and made right historical harm, not through putting money in people's pockets or buying people houses or doing individual things for people in our community, but instead by investing in infrastructure in places that may not have gotten their fair share of the infrastructure. Finally, Commissioner Proctor is, again, affectionately and I think he might have made this up, but I don't know. I think he self-proclaimed $1 billion bill over his 30-year tenure at Leon County, and the money that he's got invested within his district. But I would measure to say that if $1 billion bill has gotten $1 billion within his district, I wonder how much has been spent in other districts. I wonder how much over that 30-year period can you compare to that $1 billion that Commissioner Proctor has gotten in his district. I wonder how much more we could have put in that district that may be suffering some infrastructurally, not because of race or gender, but because geographically it needed the investment. It needed the investment. And so, again, I respect all opinions. I try to bring consensus. I actually appreciate the fact when we disagree and we're able to come together, even if it's a 5-2, 6-1, 7-0, or 4-3, that we can leave here respecting one another and respecting the opinions of one another. But again, I want to make it very clear, I hate, and I know hate is a strong word, but I hate when my intentions and my words are misrepresented on a public dais or in a private conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Mr. Immediate Past Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And listen, respectfully, to Commissioner Maddox and Commissioner Proctor, I'm not trying to misconstrue your words. I'm just giving you my perspective. And my perspective is informed both by the staff analysis clearly contemplates some sort of a funding mechanism potentially being included with this at some point down the road. I read it into the record. And we all know how this started. So the genesis of this entire idea was based firmly in the idea of reparations and compensation associated with protected classes of people.
Commissioner Welch, I'm going to interrupt you briefly real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. What I don't want to do, I don't want to re-debate the item.
I got you.
If you don't mind, you can address the personal comments with the misconstrued, but
Yeah.
I don't want to re-debate the item.
That's what I'm doing, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to sort of provide some context
Yes, sir.
where I'm getting my perspective from.
For sure.
And again, my perspective is framed by my reading of the staff analysis and the origin of this very issue. That's all it is. And so I just feel like it's a slippery slope as a board. Yes, this is benign as we could get this item, and that was done intentionally because its original iteration was not going to pass muster or be acceptable. But to me, this is clearly a pathway to some sort of remuneration associated with protected classes, which exist because they are protected. They are, by definition, already identified. So no disrespect to any of my colleagues. Obviously, I'm only affectionately referring to Commissioner Proctor as $1 billion bill to make a point that he has been fighting this fight for a long time very successfully. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, actually a $3 billion bill. I want to correct the record. I brought $3 billion.
Commissioner Proctor, I just want to know how I get some. I just want to know how I get some of that money.
I work hard,
Mr. County Administrator, any business?
That concludes your business on the agenda,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney? Okay. Real quick thing. One, I would like to request a proclamation for Lenitra Bennett. She's 25 years at WCTV. Okay. I'll second it. Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Proclamation requested by Commissioner Maddox on behalf of myself, seconded by myself. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Commissioners, real quick. Passes unanimously. Couple things. One, what I love about this board, nothing leaves this dais, okay? So I'm glad we had a good debate. Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Welch, you guys need to hug it out, do whatever you need to do in the back. Make sure it's done because I love the way we conduct our business up here. Two, I want to give a quick shout out to Tallahassee Alert, Bruce and Serenity. Not just for, listen, I was on the other side of you guys on this issue and I told you privately about it. But it's how you guys conducted yourself, how you stood on business without being disrespectful. I thought you guys handled this the last 6 months extremely professional. And it's a good example for other groups out there. of how to conduct business when you guys are looking to push policy. And I think it's important how we conducted business in this chambers, you don't see in chambers across the street. And I think it has to do with the level of respect of our colleagues up here and really how you guys conducted business. So I want to thank you for that, as well as all our other speakers. So with that being said, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners.
I'm planting my flag here because it sounds like it truly is. I'm going to trust the county administrator that this particular adjusting the attorney reporting or getting our own council attorney is an IA issue. I'm going to trust that. And